No, okay. So the title of this session is The Street Vibe Our Daughters Are Living With. So I'm not as concerned about the street vibe our daughters are living with, because we're living with it and our sons are living with it as well. But I think it's how the home vibe about our sons but specifically daughters, and we'll get into that. Sure. Is this better? Okay. So basically, the title's a little misleading, I think. And sometimes we think the counteracting of the vibe on the street at home or in the school is the way to go, and we'll explore that. So unfortunately, one of the challenges that are more pronounced when it's a daughter going on a journey is in the realm of sneers. And if we're going to stake our whole Maseira on the inches of the skirt or some other clothing, I'm so sneers that I don't think about women's sneers. I just, think about what I have to do. And it's not to belittle the sneers. Sneers is not about clothing, and we'll get into that too. But I think we have to measure our daughters' smiles before we measure their skirts and blouses and whatever other articles of clothing they're wearing. And if we do that, we'll be okay. How do we explain the sneers issue? And this is not only about sneers, but the sneers is about not being boisterous. So if you have somebody who's driving a Ferrari in Borough Park, that's the same violation as sneers in one respect or another. Sneers is the beginning when somebody thinks they're not part of the community because of what they dress. That's when troubles begin. But if we show that you're more than what you're wearing, then we're already on the way of winning the battle. So I just wanted to say that part. It's more, again, the vibe in the home than it is, sorry about that, than it is about what's going on in the street. Now, what's going on the street is going on very fast, and it's changing. And we have to create an atmosphere at home that can combat what's going on the street, in the sense that there is more love and more serenity, more calm in the home than there is on the street. The street will burn itself out eventually. That's where the competition is. That's where the conditional love is, where if you dress a certain way, if you act a certain way, then you fit in, and if you don't, you don't. But at home, you're part of the home, regardless. The stress is on the happiness, and the stress is on who you are, and not what you wear or what you say or the way you say it. So we're not going to compete with the street, with the temptations and with the glitz and with the speed that's going on out there, but we can provide something that the street can't, and that's a place called home. And again, home that shouldn't be baseball is a game of inches, not the home, and not who our children are. So that's how I wanted to start off. If there are specific questions, daughter related or not, we could start with that. I prefer to hear from you than to keep going. Okay.
I agree that how a child dresses is not the most important thing in terms of how I feel about Yiddishkeit, but as soon as a child starts dressing differently, obviously they're going to be judged by the community, by their schools. They're kind of like ostracizing themselves from belonging, which is part of what I think they want to do. So that's where my battle of giving in to it. Eventually I did give in because it was certain amounts of fighting that you can and can't do. But I feel like by my daughters choosing to dress differently, they're choosing to ostracize themselves from the community, from the school, and then they wonder why they feel snobbed or why they don't feel comfortable in the community. But it was, even though I can love them as much as I do, despite how they dress, it still harms them because they're making themselves different from the community.
And the question is?
So in other words, according to the guidance that I got based on all what I've heard from all these different things, that I did the right thing by not making it all about the clothes, and to show them that they have unconditional love and that they're Shabbos regardless of how you dress. But in the end of the day, it's still harming them that they chose to choosing to dress different, not look different, and not belong to the community.
Okay, so again,
You know what I'm
it's,
saying?
I,
In other words, yeah. I gave
you're
them-
stuck
I
between
gave
a
them
rock
what
and a
they
hard
wanted.
place.
I gave them what they wanted, but in the end, it isn't good for them. And it's not enough that I let them give them a reasonable home.
okay,
They
right.
pull themselves away from, and then they have a negative attitude towards the community because I don't belong.
They would have had a different negative thing about the community, and I primarily deal on a mass scale with the boys, and
The
they,
boys the same way. If they,
yeah, but
you know,
but they don't
start
have.
wearing those jeans and they start wearing the whatever.
But that's
then-
not, that's, yeah, again, that could be what they blame the quote-unquote communities not getting them or being part of them. But that started already before, and this is just a symptom. That's not the cause of it. And I would not defend the community. If they say, oh, Mrs. Such and Such looked at me different because I'm wearing X, Y, and Z, you say, oh, that, you know, I see you for who you are. That if they did that, that's not right. You don't have to justify whoever it is, because you just have to be there for the child and their experience, and let them share their experience. It's easily debatable if the person is actually interested in engaging in a debate. And usually sneers is not only about sneers, and drugs are not really about drugs either. It's all about pain and not fitting in and being lost and being confused. And I think as parents we should treat the the bullet and not the not the ripped shirt that the bullet passed through. So that would be the exact metaphor. It's keep making them feel special at home. We're not going to control the world. We're not going to change the world in a mass scale immediately. We could change it, a day at a time. And again, you seem to understand the whole picture. I don't think you should have regrets as what you did, because a child who you're fighting with up to a certain point, depending what age the child is, they'll go with you, and because they don't have money and they don't have the access, and eventually, and again, I'm not saying you should therefore give it to them to prove something, but eventually that barrel will break and the floodgates open, and the reason why she'll be ostracized from the community is because she has the police called to her house for breaking things and being violent and threatening people, or something less extreme.
A happy, loved child who's dressing as you dress,
Right.
a child who's fighting with you and therefore has to go to worse things.
Right. And again, I, from experience and from what I've heard, the girls who or boys who really want to dress a certain way, 3 seconds out of the house, they change, or they go to their friend's house and change. Again,
A
it's.
little girl came to me, my skirt's really short, you know this, like my mom would kill me. Don't tell her that I rolled it up when I came to your house.
Okay, so yeah. So it's not about, again, so the point would be, again, when they complain about people saying things about them and say that's not right, I hope people can be as understanding as you deserve them to be for you. And if we do try to defend people against them, they don't take it that, oh, we're trying to make them feel better. They say, oh, you want me to like the rabbi, you want me to like the neighbors, you want me to, more than me. You're understanding them more than me. So that's a general rule to, try to understand the child, not the community, and do what you can for them and everybody else. And again, this is just a general thing. If you are comfortable with your child and you will go with them as they are, other people usually follow suit. The stronger-willed person will win. So if you show them that acceptance, other people will follow. You're the greatest advocate for your child in that sense as well.
Could I just bother you to give a little introduction of who you are, where you come from? Because I just saw your name on the thing. I don't know who. Do you mind? Just a brief.
Who I am Chaim ben Nun. Some people know me as Donnie's dad. That's Donnie. And so I am a therapist and I'm a father. And I went through a journey. The best father. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Now I can go home. But yeah, that is the greatest compliment. But yes, so
And you're servicing the religious community.
I work out of Baltimore, but I see people worldwide through Zoom and other ways, and it's doesn't make a difference if it's a boy or a girl, but it's a relationship issues, be it relationships with self, with spouses, or with their children. So that's my background. Any questions about the topic we're talking about?
No, I was looking at the topic and it said something about
The street vibe?
no, I thought it was the other one.
I can give you directions to the other room.
Oh, no, no, okay, sounds great.
No, no.
Street vibe, our daughters will look.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I can continue going if there aren't any other questions.
I think at the point that I think today's world, like back at my high school days, they talked about the street, but in today's day, secondary children get hold of smartphones, which many of these children who are at risk end up getting hold of. They're living not just on the street, they're living on TikTok, which is even like more than what's really in the street. So
Well, that's the
that's
vibe part,
style,
yes.
but That's how they want to dress, is
Yeah.
that's what they think is the normal in society, is very much affected by that. Even more than a kid would be in public school, without, you know.
Well,
Yeah,
Chaim, yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there is no street. It's a virtual street. Yes.
Right.
Right. So again, it's every case is different and every situation is different. The phones are a subject of great conflict, and it's becoming more and more mainstream. And the filters do not work. Pretty much never work.
So what's the difference between the skirt and the phone? I mean, the phone is a whole nother thing, like, do we let the phone in the house? Do we?
Oh, that's each case is different. Depends where you're holding. If your child is, it depends.
Because if they don't have it in the phone, in the house, do they find a friend that does have?
Yeah, the exposure is there. This is not about. This is. We can have a question about that as well, but this is in general.
Right.
This is just the general that there is a lot of exposure, and that exposure is unhealthy. And again, the parents' relationship is what is going to counteract that balance. They need more, a settled place. They need us to be a better example. And if we're not connected, then all their connections are going to come virtually, and that's not healthy. The statistics are rather grim when it comes to that, and there are those out there who do the generational studies who are extremely, on the side that technology is bringing that about. Unfortunately, from the looks in this room right now, and in the Shabbaton, and in people that you see, people are on their phones all the time. And if we're, as adults, going to do that, our kids are definitely going to do that, and we're not going to have a leg to stand on or a chair to sit on. And that's fine. But again, that's something that we have to be aware of. I literally had it last week. I'm working with a very volatile situation. It happens to be a boy. The father, mother, and child are sitting in my office, and the father's on his phone the whole time. So, and the complaint is we have to get him off the phone. So, it's a problem. And again, our children don't learn from what we say. They actually many times despise what we say when they're in the conflict mode, either when they're younger or there's some volatility going on. They learn by what we do and how we act. And even if they don't necessarily recognize that. We don't recognize their reaction to us. We are teaching them by example all the time. You can't unlearn what you see. So that's our Do you have another microphone? Torah anytime. Do you have another microphone? No, for him. There's a second presenter. He's the other presenter. He's coming up right here. Yeah. Oh. This way, the steps. The steps. The steps there. Okay. You finish what you?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, so ask your question.
Please forgive me, everybody. We just literally arrived. I understand that they'd like to get me into the program because of experience in Chinuch HaBonos, not just in schools, but we had our own programs. We certainly worked with Ronnie Greenwald, Zichron Livrocha, and we worked with a lot of girls who had drifted off and found a different way in life. We haven't always been able to keep up with them all. Some of them have done nicely, some of them we simply do not know. I would be relieved if we can get questions from either side of the mechitza, because that will prompt me what to tell you and what to say, rather than just speaking, as they say in Yiddish, in the Weltaran, without knowing what would be of value to the present audience. So the best thing I do believe is if you give me questions, with Hashem's help, Hashem yiten chochma mipiv da'asa tevuna, hopefully I can share with you one or two ideas which may be of value. Yes? A child builds a wall around them. Well, I think the simple thing that might penetrate that wall, honestly, is a four-lettered word, a nice four-lettered word, L-O-V-E. Because, let's face it, a girl, even more than a boy, needs it, wants it, and even if she'll tell you she doesn't, she does still want it. And if she feels that that is coming over, that can melt the barriers. I hope this is of some help to you.
How you express if they put a wall?
How do you express it? I would imagine it is anything ranging from the expression on your face, or making them some kind of offer on their terms which will talk to them, which will appeal to them. And for the moment, obviously, I think this goes without saying, not to focus on what they're wearing or the way they speak or anything of that nature, and not to make any demands, and simply love for its own sake, because that's what they're craving for deep down, even if, as I said, even if they deny it. So you might offer them to take them somewhere, you might offer them a gift, you might offer them just your time, or whatever it is. You'll know the child that you're talking about, who is your daughter or somebody else, and what it might be that will appeal to them. Or you speak to somebody else with experience, and they might recommend you a few ideas of which overture would be the most appropriate. Okay? Yes, please.
Let's say you feel like you've been doing that. You've been expressing love, you've been taking an interest, you've been buying them what they want, you've been trying to accommodate their requests, you've been
Right.
really making an effort,
Yeah.
verbally in text and letters and gifts, and they're just kind of rejecting you. And they're saying, I don't want you. And like I'm continuing, and I keep trying even though it's hurtful. And I feel like, should I be on this path of just love, and keep getting rejected? Or is there something else I can do? Because it's just not working. I'm doing anything and everything. And I feel like I just want to get away from you. I want to get away from.
Do you think that there's any mistakes which were probably innocent mistakes that were done in the past which caused them to keep that distance?
I think there were mistakes that, I think there was trauma that occurred, nothing to do with us per se, but I think she either blames us or, in the sense that she feels that we should have protected her.
And she wasn't protected.
I mean, obviously we didn't know, and she was very young, and we were not privy to any.
Oh, so something went wrong through another person.
Yes.
And she felt that you let her down.
I'm not sure that that's the whole problem, but I feel like I've been trying for a year. I mean, anything and everything she wants, and I'm still being like I'm the problem one. I just don't want you. I want to move away from you.
But she still lives at home, or doesn't she?
She does, but does not want to. She wants.
She doesn't want to.
She wants a dorm. She wants out.
But she's not done it. So she's not done it though, and if she says it but doesn't do it, it possibly means that deep down she doesn't want out. I'm just thinking, it's not mamish the area where I was working, because it wasn't with my own children, and what we found with other people's children, the very fact that we unconditionally, whether it was took them out to eat or whatever we did for them, it did register. Now here I would think that it might be kedai sometimes to step down a bit and sometimes to come back again and try to offer them the best that you can. And of course, patience is a very essential ingredient over here, and I'm sure the Matzav has taught you that. Tefillah, by the way, is also no less an ingredient, that when Mispal to Hashem Yisborach, that somehow the Chaim should return. If you feel that there is a need to apologize for something, or even to say you made a mistake, Moshe Rabbeinu, there's a Medrash in Pasha Shmini, where he said that Anito isi esho halocha v'aron ochi bo v'limud li, and he even added, and now be mefarsam that to the whole Machne Yisrael. What I'm saying is we shouldn't be afraid if we think there's a place for an apology to make it. Because if anything, it increases the respect people have for us, not the reverse. So if you feel that going back, you might touch on something, say this may be hurtful, but I would like to actually make a statement to you which may ease things a bit, because apologizing is not easy. It's not easy to forgive and it's not easy to apologize, but it can break an ice wall. So I hope what was said has some value. I can't guarantee it. You know your own situation. And besides trying to relate to her, I do feel that in all situations that we have, Hashem is there for us, and Ata Shomea Tefilas Kol Peh. The Rebbe Hashem hears and doesn't reject, as the Medrash says in many places, every single tefillah, and the Medrash Tanchuma says even, I think Vayero it is, that even if we aren't worthy, not we think we aren't, we really aren't worthy, even then the Rebbe Hashem hears the tefillah. And what is as precious as the tefillah of parents, and typically this evening, Leil Shabbos Kodesh, the tefillahs of the mothers. So these are moments when maybe we should be in for happy surprises, pleasant surprises. The Eibishter soll helfen. Maybe another question from this side, or is it fair if I alternate? Yeah? Yes.
So, I mean, in children in general, maybe I don't know about girls specifically, but don't our children also need boundaries and structure as well? I mean, of course, love is important and accepting them unconditionally, but doesn't it also need to be complemented with balance, not just constantly giving and giving, you know, the parent?
Would you like to just speak up a little bit, because yeah.
So with, you know, we always learn that in life we need to, you know, exude balance. So with the unconditional love,
Right.
don't we also need to give, you know, structure and guidance?
Instruction.
I mean,
So, well, I mean, you know a bit about TP, right?
Structure.
Sorry?
Structure.
Oh, structure.
Boundaries.
Structure, but even, is that the word you intended? Forgive me, because my hearing is not perfect.
I know, I'll speak louder, I'm sorry. Yeah, structure and also boundaries and, you know. like-
When they're ready for it, but they might not be, this is a later stage when they're ready for some structure, because half the problem with dysfunctional kids and kids who've got these struggles is that they're not living with boundaries, they're not living with structure. That is the kind of life that we live, and we'd love them also to live. But because of their emotional situation, it's very hard to live with structure. See, we are very conscious when there's Zman, when there's Shabbos, when there's davening, when there's Kiddush, because we, Baruch Hashem, are living a more regular life with a Seder. This is very much what the Torah trains us, Baruch Hashem. But these kids who've opted out, I'm not sure that we can, until we really feel they're ready for it, invite them to also share that. They know it all. They know it's all there. It's like the sneers struggle. They know what length the skirt should be. They know what length sleeves should be, etc., etc., etc. So they are making a statement. Why? Because deep down they're hurting. So we have to, in a sense, turn a blind eye to that and see whether we can get to the real problem. But I think it may be necessary, you know your situation, it may be necessary to shelve the structure and the Seder for the moment if your daughter's just not ready for it.
Right.
Yes.
No, she is saying, I want to do whatever I want, what I feel like. It's always about what I feel. But, you know, when you're 13, it's not start with our mind and it goes into the heart.
Right, but it might not register with them.
Yeah, it doesn't register.
Right. Should I go to alternate? I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I have a teenage daughter, and we're living not in the era code, so to say. So we're living in a city where a lot of things are not very easily to be attained, like kosher, kashers, and all that stuff. So she has a lot of not so good influences, I would say. How
Not
does
so
that-
good.
What's the influence?
Influence,
She has
oh.
friends who are not wearing sneers and going to the movies and so on and so forth.
So, right, so
What's
she,
the aids that would be for, helping her to grow as a person?
again, she knows that one's supposed to eat kosher. She knows which kind of friends you'd like to see her with. She knows it all.
Right.
Right, so therefore the lecture is for sure not going to succeed and could make it worse. So very largely it's the same answer. Very largely it's the same answer, and the acceptance does not mean that I'm totally okay with what you're doing, and they know that as well. They're smart enough to know that. And so that even if you show the acceptance, they understand it's what you as a man will know is hoiroas shor. But it's also that, like the Eibishter's relationship with us, the bein kach u bein kach kruyim bonim, that whether we're oisem l'tzoyin shel mokum or not oisem l'tzoyin shel mokum, mizen and the Eibishter's kinder, bonim atem l'Hashem Elokeichem, and that's what we want to show them as well. That part of it is unconditional, and that you're my daughter, your beloved daughter, and I have patience, and I'm optimistic that things will shape up with time. I think so, yeah. The obvious demands which we're burning to say, it's not going to be the answer. Who was it who said that what is insanity when you've done something 999 times and it failed and you do it the 1000th time? So obviously, and the whole idea of TP twisted parenting is that we're not doing the conventional kind of parenting. We're not doing what everybody would normally say one should do, and we're doing it quite a different way. And this has proven itself to be successful. It's proven itself to work. Right, I go to this side again, yes.
Hi. So you have a girl who's hurting, you take her to a therapist, the therapist helps,
Right.
and then it's just ad con, and then you feel...
Is the therapist working more in the mensch aspect, not the yid aspect? Is that right?
Right. So then, but there comes to a point where like you feel that the therapist is not there, she's only there for the girl. So sometimes it seems like they're putting divisions instead of trying to get the girl back with the family. You know what I'm saying? Like it's all about the girl. It's not about, there's nothing about the family. When, we know that really the kids are happier if they're part of their family.
They would be, but this is, you see, you've touched something very general. And
Yes.
obviously I know no one here and nobody's family, but some families have caused problems. And sometimes, although the official policy that we hear at these meetings always is don't blame yourself, sometimes it could be that the girl is having a very hard time in the family, and the therapist, to win her confidence, has to devote herself, at the beginning at least, to the girl and what her struggles are,
Correct.
and listen to her complaints.
The
Now,
therapist also doesn't have children that age. She's been that child maybe who's been in the whole,
Right.
but she has little children.
so
Most girls don't want to go to some 60-year-old therapist that, they want to go to a 30-year-old, a 35-year-old.
But the 35-year-old will also understand, and so will the youngest of therapists, that the right place for a child is the home. And we did discover that when we had to place a girl elsewhere, there's nothing like the real home. However good that home will be, it's not a complete answer. It's at best a partial answer. So, you see, sometimes the therapist will not be willing to talk to the parents. Sometimes the child won't give her permission to. Sometimes maybe the therapist could feel that at this stage in the process, we have to be once again very patient, we can't take that step yet. We have to deal with what is hurting the girl, and we have to wait for the right time to begin to easing her way back home, either partially or completely. Have you seen the booklet? I brought it with me, but I haven't even had a chance to unpack or to see my room yet. There is a book with reports, short reports from parents, was given out at one of these Kesher Nafshi events, and it showed comments from parents who, Baruch Hashem, have seen some Hatzlocha, and you see how they thank Hashem Yisborach for tiny, tiny steps forward. And how be'emes, even a little thing to them, mamash, gave them a simcha you wouldn't imagine. Because what it was like beforehand was so grim. So, yes, the ideal is to come back and embrace the family and to feel part of it, and to want to be there, but it might be a long process till we get there. Right? Yes?
So, I would say over the last 6-7 months, our daughter has had a lot of exposure to media, to YouTube and videos and all the TikTok and all these other things, and beyond the scope of our home, and she's demanding to have it in the home. And to date, we've kind of said, we've given her WhatsApp, we've given her some things, but there's all these battles about Snapchat and we see like the media, like as more exposure, there's been more decline in her state of mind and her more separation from us. But the question is, like, at what point do you say? I'm wondering if there's a point that we would say, okay, you can have Snapchat, you can have TikTok in our house, we're not going to bother you, versus her continual going out of the house to find it anyway. You're right.
I'm not sure that I've quite caught the point you want to make. I had some thoughts, but I'd like to answer you to the point. So, can you put in a nutshell the nakuda?
I guess we had a battle over certain technology things. We've allowed some things, we've not allowed other things. The things we don't allow, she finds a way to get them outside the house.
Yes, she will. She will.
Right. So at what point do we? I mean, is there like a tipping point where we would say, allow whatever she wants, and at least it's in the home, and she's not running somewhere else to get it? I mean, that's kind of like.
So a father asked me recently, and we agreed that if she does it in his presence, if she does it in his car, or with certain things he has in the car which she's able to access what she wants from it, it's clearly better than if it's totally hefker. But I wanted to give you a different point here, which is real satisfaction these kids are not going to find in the things that they think they're craving for. So we have to allow it to them only because we can't say no, 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 and we can't make the Yiddishkeit or even the Menschlichkeit become an unwelcome burden. But it's not going to provide them with the real feeling that I'm a fully accomplished individual, I've got a way ahead of me in life, I've got potential for success, etc., etc. It's more that they've got to wake up to that eventually themselves. They've got to be able to see through the transparency of the superficial lifestyle of the world around them, and that would make the turnaround, I think. So when you're allowing them a bunch of things, it's to us as parents, it should be only temporary until they recover in the sense of seeing this is no big deal, it's not really doing it for me, it's not really making me happy, it's not making me content, and it's not going to make me into a successful person. Is this at all?
Allow it in the home, allowing them to experience it and come to their own realization that it's not.
We'd like them to come to the realization, but a lecture is not going to do it,
Right.
and forbidding things is not going to do it. You better ask the real experts. I never pretended to be one of them, but I do think that it's just part of a process.
What define a real expert in what area are you talking about in terms of?
The real experts, well, the one person I know the best who did call me originally to show up again at this conference is Avi Fischoff. And he must have more experience than anyone else.
He only deals with people kids that are.
Way out.
Yeah, way out. Right.
Then the next one definitely would be Rabbi Shimon Russell. And definitely worth, if you can catch him for a few moments, definitely worth speaking to him. If he disagrees with what I'm saying, then take his word for it, because he's definitely got much more experience. But just bichlal, we are aware as adults of the emptiness of the world around us, and it's part of a search which is endless, because they don't know what they're really, really be'emes deep down looking for. To this crowd who's here now, I can say, because the Yiddish neshama will never be content with all that trash, and it's got nothing to offer. So ultimately we hope, and this has happened many, many times. My daughter just told me a story about that. Somebody was in Hollywood and so high up and so successful, everybody around him was busy committing suicide, and well, it's not 100% serious, but there's a grain of truth in it, and eventually he found his way to Torah's Hashem Tamimo. So that's our dream and that's our hope, eventually. And as said again, and I think it's correct, that we have to be mispalel together with that ishtadlis, and hope that ata choinen lodom das, that the young person will see through this hollowness and this emptiness. Are we supposed to be finishing now? Is it? No. Okay. So you tell me. As I say, I came out of the parking lot, so I only know the Zman of Shabbos, and otherwise, and I better change. Beyond that, I have no clue. So do I have another question on this side? On the right? Yes. Would you try to make it quite audible for me that I should be able to hear clearly and also answer clearly, hopefully. B'siyata d'shmaya.
Sure. So we were getting a lot of chizuk on this, but I just want to hear another layer of how to reconcile with sneers, or the lack of it, and even more than that, like the choices that...
You're talking about the sneers.
And even the dreams. I don't know why I feel like it's especially hard, even though it's the same, a daughter, a son, but like, and they just break like all those things that you could never have believed. Like, you know, it's not just the boyfriend, it's like really big decisions that they just choose to totally just
So
ignore.
you're talking about sneers in dress and in what you do.
Right, right, and their relationships, like.
No, right. Now, obviously, the tava is very powerful, right? And again, sneers, they know the rules. The concept probably not, but I wonder whether the kids that we're talking about even understand or would accept the concept, because the concept is based on the human being, and especially the Yid, is a person with so much toichen and so much more to them than meets the eye, that we're doing an injustice to ourselves if we cheapen ourselves by dressing in that way. But probably, and the mothers will be able to tell me, the girls that we're really thinking about this afternoon are not ready to hear that. So once again, for sure lecturing won't help, and for sure objecting to what we don't like, although it hurts us terribly, will also not help.
Sure, but what do we tell ourselves?
I'm sorry?
What do we tell ourselves, she's saying? What do we tell ourselves?
We're telling ourselves, I'll tell you quite simply.
Yeah.
I don't want to be...
Sorry, what was the message?
What's the chizuk?
We want to feel better. How do we feel better? How do we feel
How
better?
do we feel better? The simple answer is, do I have a choice? Am I doing what Hashem wants? If I do what I imagine, will it work? No. So am I doing the right thing? Answer is yes. And for that you have, and I do not pretend to be one of them, but you have the mumchim here, this meeting, which every time there are more and more people in attendance, and therefore they come for guidance from those who know, just like you ask a shala from a rov, from a posek, and therefore, and as I've heard of these meetings over and over and again, that we should not blame ourselves, and they are deeply hurting inside. As Avi Fishoff wrote in one of his Kuntresim, it's not a healthy Esav, it is a sick Yaakov. So it's not a healthy, what we call a blimala, but it's a sick blimala who's not well, not in the sense of physical health, but in the sense of emotional and spiritual and mental health. So really what we have to do is try to help them in a way that works. And the experts know what does work. And Avi has got a lot of success to his credit, though others who try, we've said this over and over at many of these meetings, the others who try the obvious way, it's not working. And if it's not working, then it's not what Hashem wants us to do. So sometimes what works best is patience, tolerance. It's a nisoyan like any other nisoyan. Someone's got a nisoyin in emunah. Someone's got a nisoyin in the panosa. Someone's got a nisoyin with shidduchim. Nothing to do with this particular parasha. And this is a nisoyin. And that's why we respect the parents who come here very deeply, because they're dealing with a nisoyin and they're willing to come and ask for guidance instead of pretending to be experts on their own. So this is a great thing, that when somebody comes along for this purpose and they're saying, I want the guidance, I want the eitzos of bigger people, that is already a godless in a sense. So are we doing the right thing? Yes, showing up here is already doing the right thing. Is it not? Showing up here, putting the questions to those who know. I say, I can only give you from my own experience, which was not in the cases as extreme as what some people are going through now. But definitely we did have girls coming to programs. We had a few.
What I give them is much more out there than we could give them.
Absolutely, we can't. You cannot compete with the Yetzer Hara in that way. You cannot compete with it, so that they should abandon it and come to you and embrace you. I don't think that's going to work. So that she knows that my mother loves me. She knows that the door is open whenever I want to come. She knows that they never close the door on me despite the way I showed up. She knows that the Shabbos table, there's always a seat for me. And if you read that booklet, I forgot, do you remember what it's called, the booklet? I brought it with me actually. I'm sorry?
Thank you, Hashem.
Yeah, thank you Hashem. Yeah, how many on their own, at their own pace, in their own time, came back? They did come back. And that's the secret. And the truth is, to put it in an article just this week, in the end, whether it's to do with tefillah or shmiras Shabbos or kashrus or sneers, it's got to come from them. It can't come from us, because they know that's where we're holding. They know that's what we're about, and they're trying something else. So if we handle it wisely with the guidance of those who really know, there is at least a chance that that moment that we're waiting for, that moment of geula, of person geula, will occur. But if we distance ourselves from them by nagging them or putting pressure on them or threatening them, of course, we're only delaying or making that moment impossible. Okay? Yes?
But letting them to do what they want is going to affect the other kids.
So that is a question that we've had recurring again and again. I find this a very difficult one, and I know Avi's answer. Avi Fisher feels that the other kids say to themselves, I'm not sick, I'm healthy and well, I don't want this stuff, this is medication that you only give to a sick person, I don't want that medication. So I don't want that great big TV screen in my room, because I'm healthy. I'm a Beis Yaakov girl and I'm carrying on life like any other. So he feels, and I cannot argue with it, he feels that the chances are that the siblings will reject it. They won't want it. Now, has it ever happened? I do not know. Maybe it has happened. But al pi roiv, that's what he feels is the outcome. I don't want this treatment because I'm not sick. And the parent can say with great chachma, with great tact, at the right moment with siyata dishmaya, listen, she needs this, Baruch Hashem, you don't need it. So there's no big deal in it for you if you want to copy it. You don't want it. You don't want a strong medication that the doctor never prescribed for you. It's not going to do you any good. And it might look attractive on the outside, it isn't. Now, will this work? I cannot guarantee you. But that is the approach that I was told that one should take. I know these aren't easy ones. I do know that. Yes?
Unfortunately, and maybe every case is different, but in my family, it all went trickling down. Everyone looked
Again,
up,
it would
and
be
it all
helpful
trickled
if you...
down. It was like a domino effect.
Sorry?
My family, it was a domino effect. One
A
went
domino
down,
effect.
it went zzz. Why can't we dress like that? Why can't we be like that? And
One child after
Yeah.
another.
Will that answer be of any effect?
I'm saying there could be some families that just that one child that's going through his thing, and everyone else looks at them as, oh, never. But in some families, the younger children look up to their older sibling, and they also want to do this, and they also want to be able to do that, and it's, you know.
It's also very hard when it's the older.
In some families, they copy. They copy the
Now,
older one, and it keeps
this answer I'm giving you off the cuff.
I think it can go both ways, isn't it?
It can, but I'd like to give you an answer off the cuff, but I cannot confirm that this is going to work. And that is to say, this is the medication she's taking now. I really don't believe it's going to make you happy.
My case is 2, but we're past that already.
You can't see that.
Dominoes fell down already. Now I need to pick those dominoes back up.
I'm not going to offer you an answer for the sake of it. I'd rather say, for now, for this present moment, I do not have an answer which would be good enough. So I have to be honest.
So how could she pick up the dominoes? How could she pick them up?
Well, again, the thing that I was told always was to explain to the healthy kids, you're fine. What you want, you're walking with crutches for? You can walk on 2 healthy legs. Why are you sitting in a wheelchair? You can go on your own. Right? Why do you need all these meds? You're fine. And explain to them, why am I tolerant? Why am I letting, let's say, Miriam wear this miniskirt? And all of a sudden, what is my own hasog of sneers? Answer is, because she is hurting deeply inside, and for the moment, that is what she thinks she needs, and that's what she feels is going to ease her pain. It's a temporary measure, right? So the question is how best to relate to the siblings. I'm not saying it's an easy one, but what the messages I was getting when I was more involved in this field was that the siblings do not necessarily want it. Now I hear about the domino effect. I guess there could be such a situation. A little bit might depend on how strong the family is bichlal, in their Yiddishkeit, in their simcha with it, in their satisfaction with it, and the way the family is conducted, whether it is by lecturing or by example. There's so many different ingredients that can make or break it. Okay? Right. Now I don't know, is anyone here to tell me what time, because I know there's a Shabbos coming, so what time are we meant to wrap up? It is Friday, isn't it? Yeah, okay. Have a relaxing Shabbos, and hopefully it can be of help to you.